All right, welcome guys. Dr. Mo here, digital nomad physician at digitalnomadphysician.com. Okay, so a topic that comes up, and it's something that I've kind of battled a little bit, and I thought I would share it with you guys. Would love to hear what your opinions are when it comes to malpractice insurance. So it's a painful thing for us to have to pay for, especially when we think the risk might be lower when we go into private practice. For me, I have a mostly virtual practice, have an all virtual practice, but I still work, moonlight, do some other type of clinical stuff that can get me into trouble. Now, most of the time when I do work for somebody else, they're paying for my malpractice insurance. So it's really not an issue. But when I am seeing my own patients, and these are people whom I interact with probably once a week, they're my private patients, they pay me a monthly fee for my kind of this direct primary care model, I don't generally anticipate that they're going to sue me. What's the chance that I'm going to go sue my primary care doctor, unless, of course, she misses something big? And what is the chance that she would miss something big if in the direct primary care model, I'm incentivized to spend more time with my patients, to work them up appropriately, to refer them when necessary. And if they say I can't afford it, you know, that's not, I would not just stop telling the patient to work something up or to pursue something just because they can't afford it. So if anything, the risk is lower. And I think the data shows, if you look at DPC Frontier and a few other platforms, the average private practice physician, the concierge practice physician, the direct primary care physician, they generally have lower malpractice numbers. By how much, it's difficult to tell. It looks to be at least lower by 50%. But when you go to purchase malpractice insurance, it seems that you're pretty much just going to save about 20%. And how much are these malpractice fees? So the states that require it, which are like 6 states, Colorado, and a few other ones, are the minority. And the majority, the other like 30-some states, they don't require you to have malpractice. Some, like Florida, have certain requirements. You have to sign off on certain things. You have to get a bond. You have to get some other type of stuff. For physicians who don't want to get malpractice insurance, which is quite a lot, actually, I was surprised when I was looking at some numbers. Quite a lot of physicians choose not to have malpractice insurance, or maybe in the beginning when they first start a practice, they just don't want to take on that responsibility. Likely they eventually do once their business takes off. These individuals, you know, they end up, if they get sued, they will pay for an attorney out of pocket. They might have something in a clause of like, arbitration. That's something I've mentioned on my website before. If you want to just search arbitration on digitalnomadphysician.com, or they'll just you know, pay out of pocket for every single thing, and whatever lawsuit they're dealing with, they end up paying. Right? There's the pain and suffering, the clinical stuff, and then there is the lost wages. So we hear about tort reform and other types of things. One portion of this can be limited, right? The amount of damages you pay for a health outcome can be limited in a lot of states. But in other ways, like let's say I'm taking care of like a professional car racer and my mistake leads to them not being able to race. Well, the amount of money that they would have lost, the lost wages, that's not capped. So no matter what, I would be liable for that. In general, when you look at the numbers are not that high. The average malpractice cases settled for way less than 100,000, usually less than 50,000. And the ones that go to trial, usually they end up in a couple $100,000 range. It seems like few of them end up much higher, especially when you look at primary care doctors, where it's even lower. And the malpractice insurance that you pay reflects that. Now, fortunately, in the malpractice insurance game, the numbers are quite competitive. What I mean by that is, if my malpractice insurance company charges me $5,000 a year for my annual payment, or however much that comes out to a month, like $300, $400 a month, it's probably pretty accurate. It's because there's competition in that space, and the numbers are calculated, which means that I am not overpaying by a whole lot. Now, some numbers have crept up a little bit. The Doctors Company, which is a popular malpractice insurance carrier, has commented on this, like maybe there's a little bit of inflation in that space, but overall it's fair, it's competitive. For a primary care physician like myself, it's probably going to be somewhere around $4,000 to $6,000 a year. I think 2023, the numbers have gone up a little bit. 2024, 25, 26, we should expect it to go up even more. But especially when you're first starting out, your annual premiums are lower, and then they slowly creep up. And if you're working part-time, if you're seeing fewer patients, if you're not performing procedures, how many years you've been in practice, your previous malpractice history, all of that are factors that are going to be taken into consideration when calculating your particular benefits. In general, it is always better to obtain malpractice insurance, even if you have to put it on a credit card, right? Imagine you're starting a business, you're going to take a loan. Well, it could be a credit card. Take one credit card with a $40,000 limit, put all of your expenses on it, put all your eggs in that basket for a year, see if your business takes off. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Alternatively, if you know another direct primary care practice that you're buddies with, or another private practice that you're buddy with, it might be a good idea to combine your forces. Of course, if you have similar practice styles, and it's a bad idea if you're all cash pay and they're hybrid, or their insurance and your cash pay. But if you're very similar, it might be a good idea to develop kind of like a group practice model and get under an umbrella policy. That sometimes can also, not umbrella policy, but basically a malpractice insurance where the whole group acts as one. And that can sometimes save you quite a lot of money and protect you in some ways. So I hope this is helpful for those of you who are considering the entire malpractice insurance space. Is it bad if you don't get malpractice insurance? I don't think so. I think if you pick your battle intelligently and are thorough, the chance of malpractice is low. We already know that the way we interact with our patients has a lot to do with the chance of us getting sued. The kind of patients we see has a lot to do with whether we get sued. So those are things that I would consider. Other than that, that's all I have for you. I hope this is helpful. Check me out at digitalnomadphysician.com and tell me below, what's your idea? Do you think it's a bad idea to not do malpractice, to not get malpractice insurance? Are you thinking about getting malpractice insurance? Because after all, when we get sued, no matter what kind of S Corp, LLC, or whatever you have, the lawsuit is going to go after you as an individual. So remember that. That's critically important for those of you who think that maybe by having the malpractice insurance or having some sort of S Corp or LLC or something like that will protect your assets. All right, guys, I hope this is helpful. Take care. Talk to you soon.